Greetings, dear viewership, and welcome to another different take on the reviews for this channel of games that I've played. So, dear viewership, this is for D&D Order of the Griffin, for the one-man show, by me. And we'd like your likes, we subscribe to your subscriptions, we say our pleases, our thank yous, our hallelujahs, and let's begin in earnest. What is this game? Well, D&D Order of the Griffin is a TurboGrafx 16 game from 1992. And it's based on the D&D basic rules, tabletop rules from the 1980s or late 1970s. It is primarily a first-person party-based dungeon crawler like Eye of the Beholder or Might and Magic, but it also has an overworld like Final Fantasy, an underused overworld but unlike Final Fantasy. Order of the Griffin is in the same campaign setting of Mystara as D&D Tower of Doom and D&D Shadows over Mystara, which were the D&D arcade games. There are no airships in Order of the Griffin, unlike Shadows over Mystara, which immediately reduces its rating. And if you want to count Warriors of the Eternal Sun, which is set in the Hollow World campaign setting, as being in the same campaign setting as Mystara, which ProJera did, then yes, that's one additional video game from the Mystara setting. But the arcade games are the best game set in this setting. So who should play D&D Order of the Griffin? Well, this is a game by early edition D&D enthusiasts for early edition D&D enthusiasts. It has a tactical grid and turn-based combat, and at least tries to emulate the feel of D&D basic tabletop. If you've already played your fill of other similar games like Baldur's Gate and Might and Magic Orlazine, you might like it. Just, if you play it, don't feel compelled to finish it. It gets very samey. And if you're curious, check it out. You have internet access, meaning you have plenty of ways and plenty of opportunity to access it. Here are some notable negatives about this game. First, it has too much padding. This game is simultaneously too big and too small. It's too big because, well, there's too much unwanted randomization. Too many random encounters, too many necessary reloads to generate better HP values because HP values are randomized per level. And, well, in general, the indoor mazes, the first-person mazes, the first-person bits just felt unpleasant to map out, or at least mentally map out. You're kind of expected to physically map these things out, and that's the game's job. There is no automap in this game. Automaps already existed in games like this, like in Might and Magic 2, which came out years before, Might and Magic 3, which came out 1 year before, Might and Magic Cloudzine, which came out the same year, and, well, yeah, automap just became staples of the genre. So I'm just disappointed that Order of the Griffin didn't have one. So some other notable negatives. This game world just felt entirely too small. We are in the campaign setting of Mystara, and this is probably the most we've seen of Mystara, at least in one contiguous setting, but there just isn't much that we can actually interact with. There are like maybe 8 adventure sites, not much. And they're all pretty samey. At least the towns are pretty samey to one another, and the other places are pretty samey to one another. Another notable negative is that this game just doesn't explain itself very well. You're just assumed to know how to play before you actually play, and it doesn't tell you how well you rolled. It doesn't tell you the results of your actions. For example, if you rolled a total of 17 accuracy, it doesn't tell you that. Because if you could at least understand the numbers that you rolled, then you could better understand how the game's mechanics worked, and be like, well, maybe I should be using something else to attack this thing. But that didn't happen in this game. So, here are some primary positives. This is likely the only way to play D&D Basic with tabletop-style rules, because who else wants to play D&D Basic? 5th edition is out as of this writing, and it's been out for a few years. So D&D 6th edition is probably in the planning phases if it hasn't already gotten into some closed beta testing. So yeah, if you're interested in understanding how D&D Basic actually played, here's your opportunity. Another potential positive is there are occasional interesting moments, like learning the world is liking vampires more than the living, or sleep murdering using spells and physical attacks, or fireball spam. And I could tell the devs were trying to make the best game they could in this situation. Maybe they just ran out of time or money or, well, space, because this game takes up about 400 kilobytes. 400 kilobytes on its card or physical medium. They didn't use TurboGrafx CD for whatever reason? Oh well. And by the way, Final Fantasy IV, which came out a year earlier on the Super Nintendo, was on a bigger cartridge. So it took up more space. Fancy that. And if you play, you might be wondering, what are some things that I should know? Well, I recommend making your party this. Tor the Dwarf, Kerwin the Cleric, Valos the Wizard, and Larissa the Elf for the easiest time. Because more spells equals more power. Yes, Tor the Dwarf is not a caster, but he has a bunch of HP, he has fairly high saves, and he's useful mostly in the early game before your team has a lot of spells. And of course, he's a primary candidate for whenever you get your +3 weapon, your first one anyway. Here, otherwise, use your best spells in each fight, and then save, rest, save to recover. This is a game which has no time limits in game anyway. You are encouraged to go all out in every fight. I recommend using sleep and physical attacks at low levels to kill foes easily, and then switch to magic missile once foes become immune at 5 hit dice. You don't actually know offhand when a creature has 5 or more hit dice and thus becomes immune, unless it's your party members. So if sleep just doesn't seem to work, like at all, move on. Use another spell. Use another action. The best arcane spells per level are 1. Sleep in the early game, and then Magic Missile afterwards. Spell level 2, Web. It stops enemies in their tracks, and yeah, it prevents them from acting. Fireball is almost always the best use of your level 3 spell slot once you have it, and your action in general in combat. And Lightning Bolt is occasionally useful if you're fighting anything fire immune or just super fire resistant. Red dragons are good to use Lightning Bolt upon if you don't already have Ice Storm, which is almost always the best use of your level 4 spell slot, and Dimension Door if you just want to get around the battlefield otherwise. The best divine spells per level are Cure Light Wounds, Hold Person, and Cure Serious Wounds once you get those. Another note is that if you paralyze a foe using Hold Person or Web, then your physical attacks against it will always hit. This is very useful in just getting through fights quickly. Also, if you play, save before anyone levels since HP per level is random. I recommend save slot number 3 for storing your best results so far of HP rolling, and then when you're ready to just keep playing, save again in slot number 1. Next, after leaving the starting town, head to the northeastern part of the world map to the town of Kelvin. Explore inside and get some +3 gear. I recommend keeping it and equipping it. If you want to keep the potions, that's on you. I kept the potions and I never used them. Also, if you're close to leveling, I recommend purposely wandering the overworld and resting until you generate enough random encounters to level so you get the level benefits easily before proceeding. This is also useful right before major fights so that you aren't repeating major fights. I strongly suspect that characters don't get extra spells for high mental stats, so nothing for high int or whiz or charisma. There are no charisma casters in this game, but for anyone who believes that sorcerers or some other charisma-based caster should be in this game, I'm letting you know. The game's plot is about as compelling as a B-movie that tries to take itself too seriously. In short, it has its moments, but don't play this game for the plot. If you try to play this game for the plot, you'll end up feeling empty and short-sighted and short-handed. Never accept character death. This goes for most party-based games. If a party member dies, immediately reset the game and try again. You did save right before this happened, right? And the game's level cap is 8 per character, just in case you're curious. Also importantly, clerics only get access to level 1 spells starting at character level 2, because D&D Basic. So, this is my final numerical verdict. I give this game a 5 out of 10. Maybe this is being generous, but I was enjoying this game. It didn't actively prevent me from stopping until I felt like I hit a soft lock moment near the end. I had already basically seen and experienced the best parts of this game anyway, or at least most of this game anyway, and there wasn't more for me to experience. So, the game overall has some interesting moments, but it's simply far outclassed by games of its era, like Magic 2, 3, and 4, and today. If you really want to, go ahead, try it. Because I know that if you're curious, you just probably want to keep going. But know that you could be playing something else that's far better instead. So, thank you to your viewership. We like your likes, we subscribe to your subscriptions, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this video series, and any suggestions on what to play next for the show. I have ideas, but hey, if you have useful feedback, please let me know. Thank you, everyone. Hallelujah. Good night. God bless. Smile. Jesus loves you. Bye now.